Hello and welcome to this short presentation which is going to look at what your CIMA P1 exam is going to involve. So we're going to start off by having a look at what is in P1. It's all about the importance then of costs within the organisation. We're going to be thinking about what it is that actually drives the costs in production, along with how we can analyse them and how this information can be used by managers to make decisions within organisations. We're thinking very much about making these decisions within the short term in P1. So this information will be used for a wide range of things within the short term of an organisation. For example, it could be used for budgeting as a way of helping the organisation to execute its strategy. So if we think about a large global organisation, and I'm sure you can think of loads of different organisations, but if we take one like Apple, they will be collecting and collating information which they can use to develop their strategy to ensure that they stay as the market leader in sales of tablets and phones. So it's very important then for their success that they have information about costs, volumes and prices so that they can take short-term decisions, perhaps whether to launch a new product or just to go into a different market or to change the price of one of their products or apps in the run-up to, say, Christmas or as a new product is going to be coming out in a few months' time. And when they're doing this, they want to think about what the risks are of engaging in particular strategies. So what are the risks then of putting up the price? What will that have as an impact on the volume? P1 then is a foundation for cost management accounting within your CIMA qualification. The more longer term decisions, such as perhaps whether or not they should try and develop another new product to complement the iPhone and the iPad, would be covered in P2 when you'll be looking at longer term decisions. There are lots of links then between P1 and P2 in your exam. So I've talked very generally about what P1 could involve, thinking about it from the point of view of Apple to give us a little bit of context. What we're going to look at now then are the 4 different syllabus areas. And the first thing really to notice from this chart is that they don't have equal weightings. So some areas then, A and C, are going to have a greater prominence. And you can expect that your exam will reflect these weightings. So the first area then is all about cost accounting systems. So this will use some of the skills that you've learnt from your certificate level, so things like absorption costing and marginal costing, and we'll also be looking at different ways then of accounting for things. So you could have to perform calculations or also discuss the different costing methods and the results that they give. So you might have to look at comparing and contrasting activity-based costing with marginal costing or absorption costing. Also within this area, we've got the traditional variances that you've seen, so material, labour, fixed overhead and sales variances. And you might have to interpret those as well as calculating them. We've also got things like the role of quality costing, so things like TQM, total quality management throughout the entire organisation, and also a little bit about environmental costing and how we deal with environmental costs within an organisation. How important that is will depend on what it is the organisation is doing. So for a company like Shell, involved in oil exploration, environmental costing will be very, very important. Within the budgeting area, 25% of the syllabus, we're going to be thinking about the purposes of budgets, so why organisations set budgets and the reasons for doing so, and also calculating some of the numbers to include within those budgets, so projected product levels as well as incomes. So you might have to prepare a budget for inclusion within the master budget. Also thinking about different types of budgeting and alternatives which can be used for them. And thinking as well from a risk point of view about what-if analysis and different scenarios that could occur. The second largest area of the syllabus, Part C, concerns short-term decision making. So this is where we're using information to make decisions within the short term. And one of the key things that we'll be thinking about are pricing and production decisions. So which products should they launch and at what price in order to maximise the profits of the organisation. And the main concept that will be applied here is that of relevant costing. So the differences will be considered about what makes a cost relevant for decision making compared to which ones are included within the calculation of the firm's profit. Finally, then, we need to think about dealing with risk and uncertainty, a smaller syllabus area at 15%, but still important. Here then you'll be looking at analysing information to assess risk and the impact that it has on short-term decisions. So recognising then that a different attitude to risk could lead you to make a different decision in the same situation with the same set of outcomes. And you can think about that with something completely unrelated to P1. If you were to go to a casino, it might be that there are some people who are real risk seekers who would put a large amount of money on one number on a roulette wheel. There might be some people who think that that's too risky and will put it on a colour, so black, because there's a better chance of winning. And there might be completely risk-averse people who will stand back and let other people lose their money rather than risk losing any of their own. So different attitudes depending on different decisions depending on the attitude to risk. Having thought about what is in the exam, now let's think about how the exam itself is going to be structured. So the first number then is 70% pass mark. So you need to be pretty good at P1 in order to pass your computer-based assessment. In the exam then, we are going to have 90 minutes in which to attempt 60 questions. So that means we need to get at least 42 of those questions right in order to be successful. And when you're practicing for your OT exam, you want to be aiming for a little bit more than that to allow for on-exam day nerves. The exam will be roughly split according to the syllabus areas, so you could expect that about 15% of the exam will be on risk and uncertainty. There's no point in trying to guess what's in the exam because all of the learning outcomes in the CIMA syllabus will be covered. The exam will have lots of different questions in there every single time, and the best way to be prepared for it is to practice lots of questions and to know the syllabus, all areas of the syllabus. There'll be different types of questions. Each of them will be a multiple choice question or a multiple response, drag and drop, gap fill, hotspot, or a drop down list. So any of the areas can be examined with any of the different types of questions. And as you practice them, you'll see examples of the different types of questions. But because of the nature of a computer-based exam, you're not going to have to write narrative answers. If it's one where you have to fill in a word, then it's going to be filling in a missing word, perhaps through a drop-down list or a drag and drop. Or it might be multiple choice, choosing which statement is most appropriate. The actual lengthy written answers are going to come more at case study. The exams then are available on demand. So that's actually good in terms of flexibility, but it means that it's very important that you plan your study time. There's a risk then of keep putting it off because you know that the exams are available all the time. Another great thing about this style of exam though is that there's no anxious wait for your results because they're available immediately. So the exam then itself, computer-based, 90 minutes, in which to get 70%. So that means then that you need a good plan about how to go about passing your exam. And in our opinion, the best way then is we've done all the hard work and you just need to work your way up the achievement ladder and make sure that when you get some feedback that you're actually going to act on it. So we say then to work up it at a steady pace, so that means that you need to come up with a study plan, with a plan of attack, and set yourself a goal. Book the exam so you've got something to work towards, so that it doesn't carry on hanging over you, and it means that you'll be able to get and do your case study exam. We've set the achievement ladder up so that you will be covering those 4 syllabus areas in a balanced way and that you'll get practice at these different types of exam questions. It's all well and good working through the materials, but what you need to actually do is to see whether or not you can use what you've learned, the topics and the concepts, into answering exam questions. So you need to make sure you can take that knowledge and use it for exam questions. In addition, think about the concepts from the course in terms of how they relate to perhaps what you do at work or to what you're reading in the business press. Because the exam is at this level is going to be sort of those multiple choice and multiple response questions, but the knowledge that you learn from P1 is also going to be examined in the case study exam. So you'll need to make sure that you can apply that knowledge to real business situations. So you might as well start by thinking about it in terms of how it relates to the real world easy on. So the first thing then is definitely to come up with a study plan, as I was saying, and make sure then that you're going to attempt all of the different steps of the achievement ladder before your exam. And you can transfer these dates into your online calendar shortly. So it leaves me really to say that your P1 exam isn't going to be the easiest thing you've ever done, but with detailed studying, a good study plan and a real concerted effort and help from your tutor, then you will be able to pass your exam, and we will do all we can to help you.